Today, I got Claude to actually write like me, and not like every other AI post you see on your feed. I'm continuing to work on my personal brand, and improving my content is one of the things that I keep working on. And so to get Claude to actually give me valuable suggestions in my content, I need to actually talk like me. And so I built a personal voice skill called Jonathan Voice that takes in a whole bunch of information and actually spits out recommendations that sound like me and based on what I would say. I did this doing a couple things. 100 questions about how do I actually talk, about 180K words from videos, blogs, and my own meetings. And so the drafts actually sound like me now. I'm going to walk you through how I built this, from the interview to the scraping to the skill file and the actual testing, so you can go on and make your own. I finished the build just this evening, and so I'm going to show you the real files rather than a mock-up. Let's get into it. And so to prove to you that they actually come up with different results, I'm currently having my Claude code spin up 2 subagents with the same question to answer. That question is, why does nobody sit through a tutorial build on faith alone? We can come over to Claude Code and we can check the results. You can see my voice skill here. We can take a look at the results here. And just by a quick scan, I can already show you. We can see the M dashes in the bottom one without the skill, automatically showing you that it's AI. We have this line specifically, which is something I know I wouldn't say, versus there's much of the stuff in here knowing I will say. And I know that's not much of a proof, but once you build it for yourself, you'll be able to see the difference between your own voice and what Claude produces by itself. I obviously don't know what you tend to say, but I do know what I tend to say. And this top one is much better than the bottom one. And so to actually get it to produce results, we got to do a couple things. When I was researching how to make an actual voice skill for myself, I came across a Substack newsletter that gave me a lot of insight on what to actually do. And actually, it gave me a prompt to have Claude ask me 100 questions on my voice. We have the Substack over here from Ruben Hassid. You can scroll through it, read it on your own. I'll put it in the description. But we get down to step 2, the interview, and you have this entire prompt for Claude to take. And so if we actually come over here and read through this, we can see you're a taste interviewer, extract DNA of how I think, write, and see the world. Goal is to create a comprehensive document that captures my unique voice. Conduct 100 questions, and then it gives a whole bunch of different question categories on how to get you to explain how you think. So we have belief and contrarian takes, your writing mechanics, aesthetic crimes, voice and personality, structural, hard-nosed, red flags, and then just some general rules for Claude to follow. What I did was I went to the bottom of it, copied the entire prompt, and gave it a Claude code. And so here's this actual chat that I went through it. I did a part 2 because part 1 I had to stop. But you can see I answered every single one of these questions all the way down to question 100. And it actually created 2 things for me: a voice profile and then the actual taste interview. And so that's part 1 that you should go through. 100 questions is a lot, but it does ask you a lot of different things that you don't think about, especially when you're trying to think of it on your own. You could go through that Substack and look at each of the different items like writing mechanics, but do you know what goes into writing mechanics? Probably not. I didn't, and so I just trusted the prompt. That actual prompt produces both of these documents. We can see beliefs and contrarian takes is just logging down what I actually put, and then the voice profile is structuring it based on what I wrote in the actual taste interview. The thing I did before the taste interview, I found the taste interview in the middle of doing this, but the thing I did before that was actually ask Claude how many pieces of content would it take for me to actually be able to create a personal voice skill. With Fable, I asked this prompt here. I asked how many pieces of text. We created a previous voice skill, but it wasn't enough. I said I wanted to talk exactly like me, and however many pieces of original content I need to make for that, I would do. And so we continue through this session here. So we have a whole bunch of stuff, and we can see the summary of what I actually have on file. And so I have a whole bunch of Fathom meetings with about 148,000 words. We can see what was mined. We have YouTube videos. We have my newsletter and the original voice skill with about 700 words, which I said was not enough. And I got to this point and I told it to tell me how many new pieces I needed. and what a blind test would look like. And so I told it to create a plan, and that's what it did. And this is where I found the 100 question test and decided to do that as well. What you should do is something similar. If you have Fathom hooked up, you can ask Claude to connect to it, grab their API, or go into a settings and do the direct Claude Code connector. You can ask it how many meetings you've had and to scrape all of them to gather all of your words. If you have LinkedIn posts, you can have it scrape your LinkedIn profile for all the posts you wrote. Same thing with the newsletters you write, or if you're on Twitter, or if you're on Instagram. Basically, anywhere you have written anything, Claude can take from, and if it's your voice, it will be useful to creating your voice skill. However, if you have used Claude Code to take over your content, this will be AI writing, and that is an issue. If you feed AI writing into your AI voice skill, it's going to take the AI writing, which doesn't really help you in trying to sound like you. So avoid that. Try to get actual sources of you talking, you writing, and you communicating. Once you do have all of that consolidated, tell Claude where to look for it, or just put it in a folder so it can directly access it, and tell Claude to start scraping all of it. Before you do that though, please tell Claude that you will want to create this voice skill, tell it you have all of this content within a folder somewhere, and to create a plan first to actually create your skill. To create a good plan, tell it exactly what you want from it. So if your goal is for it to talk exactly like you and replace you for content, say that. Or if you're on the lines of, I still want to write my content, I just need suggestions sometimes, then say that. Basically, tell Claude exactly what you want from it and how the skill should operate. I personally went for something that could take over writing for me, but that's not how I'm going to use it, because most of the suggestions that I take from Claude are actual full lines that I take inspiration from. And so I'd rather be able to create a full line for me. Once you have that plan, make sure it's got everything it needs and let it create. And that's exactly what I did. I told it, here's this taste interview. I told it the videos it can use. I told it I'm not going to do the extra LinkedIn posts, and to use all my existing newsletters. I told it to update the plan, then to implement, and it started creating it for me. It finished, and the first thing I did with it was start writing actual intros that I do in networking calls to explain who I am in a better way. I was on a coaching call, and we were working on that specifically. This is what it came up with. We've got my general networking pitch, my pitch with strategic partner ask, and my free AI audit pitch. But if we look at this first one, it goes something like this. Tired of hearing about AI everywhere, but not sure where it actually fits in your business? Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan. I set up AI automations and agents for business owners that take over that kind of stuff. The back office admin, the CRM follow-up, content planning and scheduling. Basically, everything that's super repetitive and has to happen for the business to keep running. But it's the stuff that doesn't need you to be doing it. The point is to let you work on the business rather than in it. This is a very simple example because the actual pitch usually is the same. However, let me show you what that stemmed from originally. So the original one looks something like this. It says repetitive tasks and actions got you down. Tired of hearing about AI, but not sure how to use it and leverage it in your business. You break down and based on all the BS in your CRM and all the things that your to-do list that's never ending. And I can already tell you that the multi-question kind of half salesman pitching there is definitely not me. That's not who I am. Trying to fake that energy in a networking meeting is hard for me. And so this actually decided that a single question to maintain that energy will work better than the 3-1. We can actually see that in the provenance notes here. Body copy in 1 and 3 is verbatim call language, slightly structured, hook pulled forward for, per Holly, my coach. We can see zone of genius running on autopilots, deliberately not carried over, versus in Jonathan's language. If I go to the actual session that I have here, it's saying what I deliberately dropped from Holly's version. It says specifically about that triple stack of questions. Her hook style is triple stacked questions. Repetitive tasks got you down, tired of, burnt out. That's performed in a way your register isn't. And so that's what AI said specifically about it. I can pull that over here, actually. This line right here, performed in a way your register isn't, so I kept the hooks to 1 question each. So you can see immediately that AI is taking into consideration the things that I told it, especially from that 100-question interview where I told it I'm definitely not the most high energy and it's harder for me to do that. So it knows to keep it shorter so I actually can perform that energy for the whole intro. But what do you actually use this for? The point is never just one good post here and there. It's the idea that now everything that is published starts from your own words. What that means is if you're really going to use AI for content and you don't want it to sound like AI slop, you start from here. And to supplement this, you still should be giving it your ideas and your words to start off posts. But if you're a one-person team trying to get 30 pieces of content out and you're having AI help you write, would you rather have AI come up with AI slop wording or wording that you would actually use? When you're supplementing it with your opinions and your thoughts and the stuff you want to explain to people, the default AI language is not going to come out as good as the language you would use. And so that's what this personal voice skill is for. And so the way I plan on using this is to create an additional skill that goes off, does some research, and finds a whole bunch of ICP questions for me to answer, builds tutorials, thought leadership, all that kind of stuff. List them out for me so I can talk for, half an hour on a Monday and be able to have 30 plus content ideas and basically posts ready for the week in one day. And me writing all of these posts would take much more than one day if I did it myself. And so employing AI to help me there is what I plan on doing. Now, I'm not going to go let these posts go out straight from AI. I'm going to have my say over them. But to get this even quicker for me, I'm going to have this personal voice skill write them all. And so it knows how I speak, knows how I act, knows what I think, is able to create a first draft that's closer to being ready than a regular first draft that AI would produce without the personal voice skill. If you're solo, that's how you can use it. If you're on a team, however, and you don't want to be the one putting your content out for your platform, but you still have this personal brand that you want to keep posting on, if you have somebody write for you with the ideas, you can feed it to your personal voice skill and have it talk like you, but with your team, your employees or VAs writing. You keep having content coming out that's talking like you. You're still approving it because your VA is telling you every idea that you're using and you're saying yes or no to them, and it doesn't sound like AI. That does it for this video. I encourage you to go take that prompt from the Substack. I'll put it in the description and do those 100 questions. It will take you a minute, but it's worth it. And use that and whatever you can scrape of your own content to create that skill file. Everything Claude writes for you from now on won't be from scratch with AI. It'll be your actual words. I'm using this directly in my own AI operating system. Building my marketing plan from here should be much simpler as AI will be writing with my voice. If you're not subscribed yet, I post regular AI videos every Tuesday and Friday with new tutorials. And tell me one thing in the comments. What's to tell in AI writing that you have to keep editing out? Thanks for watching.